Freestyle arm pull often feels like guesswork. One coach advises you to glide more, another one tells you to crank up the tempo. And there is no end to online opinions and advice, and plenty of them contradict each other. But what if there were a simple, principle-based checklist you could trust? A list that would help you recognize what to work on to become better and guide you through the endless jungle of information. I'm Eetu Karvonen, and today I'm breaking down the 5 principles of freestyle pulling elite swimmers use every single lap to stay fast, smooth, and efficient. And I guarantee you at least one of them will surprise you, because it's not what most swimmers are told. Because here's the truth. Most swimmers overthink their freestyle pull. They're drowning in tips and tricks, but they don't know what actually matters. Every coach has their own version of the perfect stroke, and that just adds to the noise. And the goal of this checklist: cut through it. Because I don't teach swimmers by forcing a textbook stroke. I teach swimmers to understand the function, how the stroke works, what physics principles are in play, and how to adapt their movements based on their unique body dimensions and physiology. Because every swimmer is different, and there are multiple ways to swim fast as long as you respect the core principles. Different styles are just expressions of those principles, each with its own trade-offs. And that's what these 5 principles are. Universal cues that make freestyle pull effective whatever style you use, so you can move better and swim faster. So let's cut through the noise and focus on what moves you forward. And if you want to go deeper on these principles and the key cues for all 4 strokes, grab my free ebook, Training Principles for Master Swimmers. It's a no-nonsense and actionable on both training and technique. Get your free copy from the link in the description. And now let's start out with principle number 1, full extension without overgliding. The cue is simple: extend and go. And many swimmers mess their freestyle right at the front of the stroke. Either they glide too long or they never hit full extension in the first place. And both of those will cost you speed. And here's why. If you overextend, you stop producing force and your body slows down. And then you pay a big price in drag when you try to restart speed on the next stroke. It's like hitting the brakes before you hit the gas. On the other hand, if you underextend, you shorten the effective stroke length. That means less time applying propulsive force, more strokes per length, and higher energy cost for the same speed. So the sweet spot is this: reach to your natural full line and then convert it straight into a catch. Extension without any dead time. So what does good extension look like? After the arm recovery, the hand spurs in on a forward downward line, reaching a depth that matches your rotated body's line. And at the end of the extension, the upper arm is angled slightly downward from the body line so that the wrist settles just below the shoulder line. Not skimming to the surface, but not diving too deep either. And if you look slightly forward while swimming, the hand should be extended in your field of vision. So instead of chasing extra reach by stretching the arm forward and twisting the body, let the weight of your recovering arm dictate how much you rotate. And in most cases, this will fall somewhere between 30 to 50 degrees of long axis rotation. But don't get hung up on numbers. Let the arm's natural trajectory decide it. And I call this point the zero position. The arm is extended as far forward as it can go and is ready to start force production. Any extra reach beyond this 0 point creates a dead spot in propulsion, twists the body, flares the ribs, and bends you into a banana shape that does nothing for forward velocity. But missing this 0 point in the other direction is just as costly. If you rush into the catch before the arm has finished aligning, you never achieve the full length that sets up leverage and stability throughout the stroke. Cutting short in this way means less time applying force, a weaker setup for the forearm, and a stroke that feels choppy rather than connected. It's like trying to swing a hammer without drawing it back first. You lose both rhythm and power. And the sweet spot is this: hit your 0 position cleanly and then roll straight into the catch. No extra glide that kills speed and no rush that chops the stroke short. Extension is about balance. Long enough to be powerful, but immediate enough to keep momentum flowing. At zero position, you should feel tall and aligned, not stretched and definitely not twist. Simply ready to connect into the catch. And at an easy pace, the sequence is slower. You enter, you settle down, and then you immediately catch. But at race tempo, the timing compresses. The spear is decisive and the catch sets almost instantly. But the principle is the same. No glide, but simultaneously no rushing. Most errors that I see happen right here. The long, beautiful hang time at the front looks smooth, but it kills momentum and forces you to re-accelerate. Over rotation at the extension pulls the hand across the midline and ruins the catch. And reaching too close to the surface spikes drag and leaves the forearm at a poor angle for holding water. And on the other end, rushing the catch before the arm has fully reached zero cuts your length short, weakens your leverage, and reduces the time you can apply effective force on the water. So here's the governing idea. Full extension is a position and not a phase. Hit the long line clearly, then roll it straight into pressure on the water. That preserves velocity, lowers drag, and sets you up perfectly for principle 2, anchoring the hand without slippage. The arm doesn't move the water, it holds the water, and the body moves past it. So once the arm is extended in line with the body, deeper than most swimmers think, the next job is not to chase a picture-perfect high elbow shape to pull with. The job actually is to create a stable anchor in the water and move your body past it. And in practical terms, that means you present as much effective surface area of the forearm and hand backwards as early as possible, and then you keep that surface facing backward for as long as possible while the body travels forward. And there are different ways to do this. But let me explain. Propulsion in freestyle is about pressure. You go forward by sending water backwards. If your hand and forearm drift forward with the water instead of holding against it, you lose pressure and your force collapses. But when you anchor well, the hand feels solid against the water, you sense pressure across the palm and forearm, and your body drives past that stable point. And the catch is about establishing that pressure. From the zero position, the movement flows straight into a catch so the forearm can take the load. The shoulder rotates slightly inward, the elbow bends just enough, the forearm turns in, and the wrist sets so the palm faces back. You're not reaching forward to find the catch. You're letting the water meet your forearm as you set the anchor. And the sensation is almost paradoxical. It feels like the arm stops in space while the body slides past it. And mechanically, it's all about levers. A straighter arm gives you higher peak forces, but only for a short window before it swings out of position. A more bent arm produces less peak force, but it keeps the forearm facing backwards for longer, which is often more economical and easier to sustain. Neither is right or wrong. Both just have trade-offs. The constant is this: the forearm must stay oriented backwards and the hand can drift forward with the flow faster than your body moves past it. And here's how this anchoring should feel. From the extension, the elbow drifts slightly out. Not really wide, but just enough to clear the shoulder line. The forearm tilts downward as it angles back, like hinging a paddle into the flow. The palm faces back with the wrist relaxed, not bent, so you can hold pressure. In the catch, the elbow stays above the hand so the forearm can take the load. In anchoring, the hand stays nearly steady at the front while the torso and hips drive past it. Slippage shows up in obvious ways. The elbow might collapse inward, the palm flattens towards the bottom, and the hand can drift forward with the water. In your body, it feels like lots of effort is applied with little speed. And if you ever felt like you're pulling hard but not actually moving, that is slippage. The correction is to think of catching your weight. As soon as you feel the long line from fingertip to hip, you set the forearm to meet the flow and let your body weight fall onto that pressure. The lats take the load as the pull begins and you feel resistance across the forearm and not just the palm of the hand. As the pull continues, keep thinking hold rather than push. The hand will naturally trace a gentle curve under the shoulder, and not because you're drawing an S shape, but because your body is rotating and moving forward while the arm extends and re-aims the blade backwards. The shape of the arm only changes to maintain that backward pressure, not because you're following predetermined choreography. Anchoring well means you generate real propulsion with every pull instead of wasting effort. More force goes into moving you forward, less slips away, and that sets up the rest of the stroke. A solid anchor leads into a strong release and an effortless recovery, which is exactly where Principle 3 is heading. So lock in the feeling. The arm doesn't travel forward to make power, the body moves past a solid blade. Anchor early, orient backward, and hold. All right, we've anchored without slippage and we're moving the body past the solid blade. That anchor sets up everything that follows. Now comes the part that might ruffle some feathers. Principle 3, release with rounded momentum and not with a push. And here's the mistake I see everywhere. Swimmers try to finish the stroke by driving the hand past the hip. They extend the elbow, press hard to the rear, and force 1 more inch of reach underwater. And it might feel powerful, but in reality only stops you from moving forward, because there is a distinction between stroke length, or how far the arm travels, and distance per stroke, which just means how far the body travels with each pull. And forcing extra arm travel at the back rarely gives you more body travel. More often, it actually adds drag, completely stalls your rhythm, and beats up your joints. And the reason is simple. Your big pulling muscles are strong when the arm is forward and under the shoulder. But as the arm approaches your side, their leverage disappears. To compensate, swimmers extend the elbow and push past the hip, but that mostly sends water upward instead of backwards, while the upper arm itself becomes extra drag. Even if you squeeze out a tiny impulse forward, you immediately pay for it by having to lift that stalled arm into recovery. And the net result, little to no propulsion and lots of wasted effort. And this is how the release should work. If you've held a solid anchor throughout the pull, the arm itself already has momentum. As the pressure on the arm fades near the ribs, let the arm exit in an arc out of the water. The arm swings forward naturally, carried by its own kinetic energy and the body's rotation. It feels like the water lets you go, and you marvel at the ease of it. And in my opinion, it's far less costly to round out the touch early than force an ineffective push at the end of the stroke. From a rhythm perspective, think continuity. Propulsion has a natural rise, peak, and then it fades. If you try to force a hard finish, you add an extra push at the back that doesn't move you forward but does break your timing. If instead you let go as the pressure naturally fades, recovery begins earlier and smoother, and the stroke stays connected from one arm to the other. And here's how that should feel. As the arm passes under the shoulder and nears the ribs, pressure on the forearm begins to fade. The pull itself should accelerate, and that acceleration gives the arm momentum. When you release without forcing a final push, that momentum carries the arm naturally out of the water and forward like a pendulum that crests and keeps going. It's not about lifting the elbow, it's about letting the energy you build in the pull swing the arm into the recovery. And this links straight back to the last principle. Anchoring gives you a strong front half. Releasing with momentum keeps that strength flowing through the back half. You spend your effort where it pays off, and you stop when it doesn't. So Principle 3 in one line. Don't finish by forcing a push. Finish by letting the arm swing free, let the force decay, arc the exit, and let the recovery start itself. That sets up principle 4, a clean, balanced recovery that arcs naturally over the body and returns in line without crossing over or drifting wide. The arm recovery should feel free and effortless because you didn't jam the pull past the hip. The arm already has momentum and wants to swing forward. Your job is simply not to interfere. Let that momentum carry the arm through a quiet, compact path until it's ready to drop back in. You're not manufacturing a shape. You're just letting the arm follow its natural trajectory. And here's the main idea. The path over the water should follow the same corridor as the pull, and it should pass directly over your body line, not wide and definitely not crossing the midline. If recovery flies out wide, the pull compensates with a wide sweep, wasting energy and throwing off your balance. And if recovery crosses over, the pull will slice inward, bending your line in the other way, which often happens with a manufactured high elbow recovery. And all of these mistakes make your hips wiggle from side to side and add drag. Now, technically, recovery should just right your body roll. Keep the arm relaxed so the shoulder doesn't shrug, and let the hand hang slightly below the elbow through mid-recovery. Not because you're posing, but because that's what a pendulum does when you don't interfere. You're conserving the momentum from the release and letting rotation carry the arm forward. From the water's perspective, recovery is about staying compact and quiet. The light, narrow path keeps your profile small and prevents the head from bobbing. Forcing recovery wide or high just creates extra twist you'll end up paying for somewhere else. And breathing doesn't change the principle, it just tightens your margins. On a breath, keep the head turned small and return quickly so the recovering arm can stay on its natural path, arcing over the body line and beginning its downward sweep in the recovery. If the head lingers, the arm tends to drift across midline, causing that crossover pull. Let body rotation and not neck strain bring the mouth to air, then get the crown of the head back under the water before the hand starts dropping forward into its line for entry. Entry is simply the completion of the recovery swing. As the hand passes the shoulder, let the forearm unfold and drop the fingertips in line with the shoulder, not inside and not outside. Place the hand into the same corridor the pull just vacated. No stab at the surface and no reach across the head. The hand enters cleanly, a touch forward and down on your body line so you can connect immediately to the extension from the principle 1. The sensations tell you if it's right. The arm should feel light, the hand skim quietly forward and your hips track straight without wiggling from side to side. When the hand enters, it finds the same slot every time, ready to extend and catch. If the shoulder jams at the top, if the hand splashes in across the head, or if the hips sway, you're either crossing or throwing wide. So let the release become a swing, traveling cleanly over your body line, and recovery is just a continuation of the pull's path. Over the body, straight back into the same corridor you just pulled on. And once that path is consistent, the rhythm takes care of itself. The release ends as the next catch begins. And that's opposition timing, which sets up principle number 5. And the question is whether that handoff between arm pulls keeps your speed alive or lets mini stops creep in. Continuous propulsion is the glue that holds the first 4 principles together and the biggest lever for swimming fast without wasting energy. And here's the idea in simple terms. Your arms are 2 engines sharing one transmission. If one shuts off before the other one engages, the car will lurch. And in the water, that lurch is a speed dip. Because drag grows with the square of speed, speed swings raise the average drag over each cycle. And that's your oscillation tax. And every dip also makes you buy back momentum, your reacceleration tax. So to keep propulsion continuous, avoid both taxes and keep the mechanics from principles 1 through 4 clean. The timing language for this is the index of coordination, the gap between when one hand stops producing propulsion and the other one starts. Around 0, it's opposition, like a baton handoff where one pole releases as the other one closes. Positive values are superposition, where both hands propel you briefly. Negative values means a gap. One side has finished and the other one hasn't started yet. And that gap is the dead zone that creates the lurch. For most swimmers, aim for opposition or a whisper of superposition. Think of a pedal stroke. Pressure rolls smoothly from one leg to the other, never dead at the top. The cue is simple. Always connected, never empty. Now, the elephant in the pool. Many elites, especially middle distance and distance men, show a visible negative index, a gallop of some sort. Where one side hits hard, there's a brief pause, and then the other side hits. And why do they do it? A small negative gap can let one arm reach its full force peak without the interference from the opposite hand. And synced with breathing, a dominant pull can steady the head at higher tempos. And a disciplined 6-speed kick can also bridge the front end lull so speed doesn't collapse, and in open water, a loping rhythm can help with siding and wave timing. But the trade-offs are real. Higher peak loads at the shoulder, more side-to-side torque in the core, and a kick that must cancel some of that swinging, and a larger metabolic bill. So it's a specialized choice, not the default. And here's how to feel the right timing. As the recovering hand is about to set extension and begin the catch, the opposite arm should already be losing load at the back and rounding into release. Don't wait to be empty before you start the other side. The end of one pull becomes the beginning of the next. One arm finishes as the other starts its catch. Pace does reshape the timing, but it doesn't replace the principle. At very easy pace, a slight negative index is common to keep tempo down. But as speed becomes meaningful for racing, timing tightens towards opposition. Only at truly high race tempos does a touch of superposition show up. What you never invite is an exaggerated front end pause at extension that opens a hole in the velocity curve. So no waiting at the front, always moving. And the bottom line is this. Engineer your timing so propulsion never turns fully off. Aim for opposition and allow a touch of superposition as tempo rises. The gallop you see from the top swimmers is a power-driven choice with real costs. For almost everyone else, a continuous overlapped handoff is the fastest, smoothest, and most sustainable way down the pool. So lock that timing in and the other 4 principles snap into place. And when they do, freestyle stops feeling complicated and starts feeling automatic. And stack them. Extend and go. Anchor without slippage. Release with momentum. Recover over your body line and keep propulsion continuous. Practice them one at a time. Own the feeling. Then layer them together until your speed stays smooth from wall to wall. And if you haven't watched it yet, go straight to Streamline Secrets, gain free speed of every wall, because what happens off the wall is just as important as what happens while swimming. And if this video helped you, subscribe and drop a comment with the principle you're working on today. And if you're ready to take your swimming to the next level with a plan built for your body and goals, check out my one-on-one coaching. We start with a free 30-minute call. Book yours via the link in the description. So swim smart, swim fast, and I'll see you in the next one.